Hi everyone, I'm Carly Friedman, the Director of Research at CQL. Also presenting with me today is Betsy Burns, a Quality Enhancement Specialist at CQL. Today we'll be discussing the CQL Sex and Relationship Conversation Cards, including an overview as well as practical tips for using them to expand the knowledge of the people that you support. So social relationships can widely enhance people's quality of life. Research has found the benefits of social relationships include more emotional well-being, sense of self-worth, sense of belonging, and lowered stress. Despite this, not only are people with IDD often more isolated than non-disabled people, but they also face barriers when it comes to relationships and sexuality. And for a long time, it was assumed that people with IDD were not only not interested in sexual relationships, but not capable of sexual relationships, and we know this is simply not true. People with IDD have the same wants and needs when it comes to sex and relationships as non-disabled people. They're just less likely to receive sex education and more likely to have people in their lives that serve as gatekeepers. So at CQL, we developed a sex and relationship card set for both learning through playing games and participating in interactive discussions with others. The cards and the accompanying facilitator's guide are intended to encourage the sharing of ideas and knowledge while having fun talking about sex and relationships, including the rights and responsibilities, as well as the support people need to fully participate in sex and relationships. The cards can be used in formal or informal settings, by groups or by individuals, and really anyone seeking a greater understanding of sex and relationships. The tool is simply designed to enhance understanding of sex and relationships for people who are receiving supports and the people who are providing those supports, as well as to help promote healthy relationships. So the deck is made up of 60 cards. 54 of the cards are divided into 3 categories: topics, rights and responsibilities, and supports, with 18 in each category. The set also includes a facilitator's guide, which not only provides background about all the topics, rights and responsibilities, and supports, but also provides guidance regarding facilitation. As many people with IDD do not receive sex ed, it's critical that supporters discover what people know about these concepts, what people's needs and preferences are, and what supports are present or still needed. And this tool may help with this discovery and understanding. So the 18 broader concepts are included in the cards. They include relationship types, friendship, romance and flirting, dating, anatomy and reproduction, gender roles and gender identity, LGBTQIA, masturbation, sex, consent, safe sex and sexually transmitted infections or STIs, sexual abuse, sexual assault and safety, rape, communication, privacy, respect, disagreements with guardians or staff, and social media and online safety. There are 3 categories of cards for each of the 18 topics. The topic card includes definitions where applicable and important features about the topic and what it means. While the card may not be comprehensive, it's designed so that people have an overall understanding of the topic. Each of the 18 cards in the rights and responsibilities category has a listing of people's rights and responsibilities when it comes to that specific topic. For the purpose of this tool, the rights and responsibilities selected were considered to be the most critical and relevant to people. Each of the cards in the supports category lists ideas, approaches, and skills that can be used by supporters to assist people with sex and relationships. There are also 6 blank cards which can be written on using a grease pencil or whiteboard marker and can be erased or modified as needed. The intent of these cards is to provide a mechanism for organizations or individuals to add custom topics, rights and responsibilities, and supports to the deck. Blank cards can also be used as wild cards if a game calls for such a card. So here's an example of one of the sets of cards in the deck, in this case, consent. So for example, the topic card, which is the red one on the left, talks about what consent is, that it's when you enthusiastically agree to do something sexual with someone, that it's always the person's choice, and that consent is required for any type of sexual activity, etc. The rights and responsibilities card, which is the purple card in the middle, notes that people have a right to say no, that you can change your mind and withdraw consent, that you must respect other people's decisions, that cannot pressure or trick them, and so on. Finally, the supports card, which is the green card on the right, Mention the supporter should provide accurate, accessible information about enthusiastic consent, not judge people for their choices regarding consensual sex, and support people to recognize coercion. Now, the individual cards provide a general overview. The facilitator's guide can then be used to provide more information and a deeper conversation. For example, the facilitator's guide about consent describes what consent is, it describes what informed consent is and why it's important. It also gets into the capacity to consent, including how age and legal status impacts this. It also includes some tips for supporters about how to educate about consent. Now, the objective of the cards and the accompanying facilitator's guide is to learn about sex and relationships, the rights and responsibilities that go with each topic area, and supports that may be needed. But people learn better when they're having fun. So that is also an objective of the tool. The cards are designed for play, but it's important that the content of each card is also shared with the players while playing. So a variety of group or individual games can be played with these cards. For example, one of the games described in the guide is Go Relationships, which is similar to Go Fish. This game is for 3 or more people, and all 54 of the cards are used, and blanks can be used if you want to customize the game. And everyone is dealt 5 cards. Similar to Go Fish, you go around the circle asking each other for cards. So for example, you might say, John, do you have any cards about consent? If they have the card, they hand it over, and to you, and if they don't, you say Go Relationships, and I would pick up a card from the pile. During this process, you can work in conversation, such as reading the content of the cards if they successfully fish it, or having a group conversation about the topic when the sets are found. Another card game example is 3-card poker, which also uses all 54 cards, and the players are dealt 3 cards. And very much like regular poker, you decide if you want to stay, bet, or fold, and there's a hierarchy of the cards, which is described in the guide. Of course, the fun part with poker is betting. Anything can be used for betting, from coins or trinkets to pretzels, and the person with the best card that then gets to keep the pot. As with Go Relationships, conversations about the content can be worked into the gameplay. While we suggest a number of games, you can certainly get creative and make your own. These cards can also be used to just talk about sex and relationships along with needed support. One person and one supporter, or a large group and several supporters, can take turns picking up categories from the pile and sharing the content of each card along with personal observations. People can express which supports make sense to them or which do not, and discussions may occur around topics like sex and what is considered socially acceptable, and cards can be used for the basis of role play or even other games like Pictionary. Now, as mentioned, the facilitator's guide includes a deeper dive into the content. It also includes some tips and tricks for facilitators as they moderate the games and activities. For example, here are some general tips that may increase the quality of the learning and the fun of the playing. Understand the role of the facilitator and the contents of the material in advance. Create a safe and comfortable environment for all players. Make sure the environment is a no judgment zone. Prepare in advance and have all materials and the room set up and ready to go. Be welcoming and accepting to all players. Help each player feel at ease. Think about participation. How can you support each player to participate fully? Don't talk too much and be sure to listen carefully. Don't just hear words, but really listen to meaning and what's being said. Understand the desired outcome, which may be different for each player. Stay focused and help the group stay focused as well. You want to have fun, but remember the objective is ultimately to learn. Acknowledge each contribution and reward participation verbally, and this will help increase learning. And be yourself, be creative, use your knowledge of each person and their unique skills to make the experience the best. And while playing a game or as part of a discussion, a player might ask a question or bring up a situation where rights have been unfairly restricted or ignored. A person may talk about a personal matter that is sensitive or may border on abuse and neglect. It's critical that the facilitator be prepared and acknowledge this and be sensitive of what is being said. If a person brings up a subject that is too sensitive or maybe embarrassing or hurt someone's feelings, the facilitator might need to intervene and remind our players of the right to privacy and respect.
For practical uses, there's a variety of things that you can do around this area, and I've selected 4 to talk about today. Personal outcome measures. When conducting a personal outcome measures interview, there is a factor called My Human Security that includes people exercise rights, and another factor called My Relationships that includes people have friends and people have intimate relationships. The sex and relationships conversation cards may be helpful when talking about relationships and rights. The portion of the sex and relationship conversation cards manual that speaks to relationship types is on page 14, and the one in friendship is on page 16. It has a listing of people's rights and responsibilities when it comes to the topic, and as she said, those happen to be the purple cards. An example is in reference to relationship types, the corresponding card for relationship types under rights and responsibilities include areas that may be more critical and relevant to people that you have the types of relationships you want. If you don't want to have a romantic partner or don't want to have sex, that's okay. You must make sure the person you're friends with or in a relationship with want the same things as you. And if you're having sex, you must get consent from that person. And last, there are certain types of behavior that are appropriate only in private. The corresponding card for friendship types under rights and responsibility include the following areas. You have the right to choose your friends. You have the right to invite friends to visit whenever you want. Friendship involves give and take. Sometimes you do what your friend wants and sometimes they do what you want. You should respect a friend's space. You should stay in touch. And last, friends are often share good and bad times. Also, the cards can be used for one-to-one conversations. We all define friendships and relationships uniquely. Like most things in relationship, the true definition of intimacy varies by each person. Since intimacy is defined by the person, it's important to understand that definition. Have an initial meeting with a person is the place to start. You can bring the cards with you when you have a conversation. However, start the actual conversation by asking questions like, who are you closest to? Is there someone with whom you share your personal thoughts or feelings? Whom do you trust to talk with about private concerns and feelings? Who is there for you when you need to talk? With whom do you share your good and bad feelings? Is this enough for you? And then you could ask perhaps if they want more information. You can show them the cards, ask if they want to talk about some of the cards, or this is the opportunity to set up another time to meet with people. The cards are great and beneficial to supplement other curriculums. If you're using other curriculums, you use the cards based on what the class discussion plan is, and they can be used as part of the activity about that specific topic. Next slide. Personal outcome measures focus on the choices people have in their lives. I just mentioned that personal outcome measures manual has a factor called My Relationships, and one of the areas in that factor are people have intimate relationships. On page 58 of the personal outcome measures manual, CQL defines intimacy as sharing ourselves with another person in a way we would only share with those with whom we deeply trust. We talk about how intimate relationships can include intellectual, social, emotional, and physical components. And sometimes intimate relationships result in physical affection and sexuality. People have choices and opportunities to develop close personal relationships. So one of the values that's part of the POM manual is that people have the right to develop and express their sexuality. The POM manual further indicates that people's options match those available to all people. Organizations do not prohibit or present barriers to close personal relationship. They in fact respect and support personal desires for intimacy. And so it makes sense that one of the principles for organizations is to provide people who lack experience with or knowledge about intimate relationships and sexuality, provide them options for training and support in expressing intimacy and sexuality. Next slide. Supporting people's sexuality. You know, as Carly previously mentioned, research has shown people with IDD face many barriers due to a variety of factors that restrict the overall quality of their lives. An individual's lack of knowledge about sexuality violates their inherent sexual rights as human beings and inhibits healthy relationships, sometimes leading to poor decision-making around the expression of their sexuality. So to that end, what is the role of support providers? One of the barriers to an individual's sexual rights is the inconsistency or lack of supports from providers. Many providers will indicate they understand that people with IDD have inherent sexual rights, however, struggle with the very idea of sexuality education, and in fact, who should provide it. Providers struggle with what, if any, ramifications may develop from parental concerns. However, people with IDD have the right to relationships and education about sexuality, even if the providers or parents don't want them to. So what is a provider to do? Moreover, what's a person who trusts providers to support them in their lives, all aspects of their lives, including the right to sexual expression and social relationships? What are they to do? Also be thinking about family as natural supports. They may not see their son or daughter as a sexual person and may shy away from discussing this at all. All of this demonstrates that generating long-lasting change is crucial at all levels to support a person's quality of life and their access to sexuality and sexuality education. Therefore, it is providers' responsibility to support, respect, protect, and enforce all the rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including the right and responsibility to be a sexual human being. In August of 2019, Carly wrote a research article on intimate relationships of people with disabilities that speaks to the role of the support providers. With regard to support providers, the analysis revealed service organizations are key to enhancing the social and intimate relationships of adults with disabilities. Also important findings were about the role organizations play in inhibiting or supporting the intimate relationships of adults with disabilities. In thinking about sexual education staff development, just like non-disabled people, it of course is important to promote healthy relationships for people with IDD to provide access to sexuality education. A few words about being proactive versus reactive. So think about this. A proactive approach with regard to sexual education may be more beneficial for the long-term quality of life for people. Being proactive means that you will spend more time planning and preparing for the future than you'll be dealing with emergencies as they arise. In another 2017 research article titled Sexual Health and Community Service for People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, the paper states that reactive sexuality services focus on interrupting sexually inappropriate behaviors through assessments and plans, intervention and therapy, and supervision. Meanwhile, proactive sexuality services promoted the healthy sexuality of people with IDD by providing sexuality education related to sexuality awareness, reproduction, and victimization avoidance. So it's important to create education classes for providers and natural supports that enhance their knowledge and comfort level around the topic of sexuality education. It's vital that people with IDD know that they have someone they can turn to who will support them in this area of their lives without passing judgment or ignoring that they are sexual human beings. Strong advocacy by organizations' board and administrative teams around policies and training provide a foundation on which to build rich sexuality education programs for people with IDD, their families, and the staff who provide services and supports. So the next thing you see on your slide is the askable support person. So what does that mean? Becoming an askable support person requires someone who's comfortable having the conversation. An askable support person around sexuality education simply means being open to both acknowledging and helping someone with information they may have around sexuality, or in fact directing that person to someone who does have the comfort level to give the facts and resources to that person. When you think about it, direct support professionals have the most contact with the people they support. Training specifically for a direct support professional, or DSPs, should include identifying their own beliefs, values, and perceptions about sexuality, relationships, and disability. DSPs should also understand regulations and policies while developing skills to answer or direct the person to resources that will cover questions they may have around sexuality. Using the sex and relationship conversations cards has proven to be beneficial in working with staff or the support person. It helps the staff to learn more about their comfort levels with the information on the cards. And they learn not just about the cards, but other ways in which they could use the cards. So it's really important to have the staff use the cards first, certainly, to learn about them, but also to learn about their comfort level and to really have that a part of their training program before they use them. So who's the leader of the pack for sexuality education? Well, this is the person or persons who will lead the group of askable people, including people supported. Certainly the pack leader or leaders is an askable person, as I just described. Ideally, this person or persons should be a champion for people, someone who sees the big picture and leads the group to achieve that vision. This someone can troubleshoot barriers and challenges, facilitating sexuality education and promoting organizational buy-in implementation. The leader of the pack is someone who addresses sexuality one-on-one with individuals, someone who can lead sexuality education classes for people and staff, and even facilitate parent and guardian workshops. This person is someone who can answer questions and respond to sexual self-advocacy and support people's involvement in facilitating and co-facilitating this training. Using the train-the-trainer approach in all the areas I just mentioned is possible. Once staff and people supported or trained, it's useful long-term to have a team of people who work together as trainers. So the train-the-trainer approach is really effective in teaching people about askability. Involving people supported as facilitators and co-facilitators is very important. In fact, yet again, another good research paper that involved Carly was in 2014 titled, "Remember, Our Voices, Our Tools. Sexual Self-Advocacy as Defined by People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities." Part of the conclusion of the study was that self-advocates describe sexual self-advocacy as relating to knowing and respecting themselves and respect for others, choices, speaking up, having their rights respected, getting information, and healthy relationships. They also explained that having facilitators would increase their sexual self-advocacy, such as expanding access to information, sexual health services, removing systemic barriers, educating others, increasing access to counseling, and developing opportunities for sexual expression. That statement in and of itself is why having people supported and involved is paramount. In fact, you'll find all the articles I referenced on CQL's website. Next slide. So what are others doing with the cards? I recently conducted a small survey with some organizations who purchased the cards, or in fact, in one case, won the cards at our 2019 conference. Along with the survey questions, I'll share their corresponding comments, and they are as follows. So first, why did you purchase the cards? We want to know. To use as a resource for our sex and relationship classes, we work with people who are looking for ways to build healthier relationships, be it intimate relationships or better friendships. We purchased these in the hopes their use could be tailored to each person and could be used in a variety of ways to further our progress with skill work in the area of relationships. And here's the one that won them at the conference in Baltimore. In fact, I remember meeting that group of people. Next slide. How have you used the cards and which game options did you use? We've used them for a little over a year with a women's group, about 5 to 8 individuals, or with people who expressed interest. A lot of this is prefaced to prior to COVID-19 because, as Kathy mentioned, a lot happened in 2020. Prior to COVID-19, classes were offered each month. We divided the cards into Relationship 101, 202, or 303, as some people were not ready for all the topic areas. That's a really great idea to do that. I like that response that organization gave. The games they liked are I Got Your Supports game, Go Fish, and just general discussion. And the games are great for staff meetings. Next slide. How did you decide who would facilitate the use of the cards? One organization said we have a team working together to figure out how we will use the cards. A person was assigned to study the cards and manual to develop some initial areas for how they could be used, the people supported and our employees. I love the fact that people are talking about using the cards. We worked with a couple of direct care staff at our day program to discuss and train how they would facilitate the groups. Next slide. What is the strategy for training staff and people supported? This goes back to my discussion about sex education for all people, doing policies and so on, having that leader of the pack, having the askable person. This organization spoke to the idea that the team is comprised of individuals who have some experience teaching individuals about sexual education. One staff is learning about the cards and manual who will train others on the cards, who could be used to support people who have personal goals in the area. So actually incorporating these in people's life plan or ISPs. We work out questions for cards that staff could use to start the conversation. I like that piece as well, getting comfortable comfortable with the verbiage on the cards, and also coming up with questions so that staff have the comfort level coming from how they sound using the cards. I like that a lot. Next slide. Do you use the cards in another way? These cards are being used as an extra resource, so we'll have team members read and evaluate the cards before classes begin. We're also working to do additional education with the people in the areas of abuse, neglect, mistreatment, exploitation. Another area that would be great, you know, when you do personal outcome measures with people, there's some great information that you can use the cards for around abuse, neglect, mistreatment, exploitation, and prevention of that. They also said, ultimately, our goal is to incorporate the use of the cards into the strategies for personal goals in the area of relationships. And I like that as well. Next slide. Are people supported, involved in facilitating or co-facilitation? I knew this was going to be a tough one because with COVID-19, that's been a concern for people. But post-social distancing, people hope to incorporate them in the self-advocacy group so they can get people supported, more involved in deciding how they might be used both individually and in group sessions. Once we get to the point of being able to, again, hold group self-advocacy meetings, we'll be exploring this option. And one organization, I'm so proud of them, and I do think they're the ones that won the cards. Not that it matters, but I do think that was them. Prior to COVID-19, we were working on having a couple of individuals supported the day program to co-facilitate the lessons. So I think that's super cool that they did that. Next slide. Additional feedback about the cards. The cards are clear and provide good direction for the trainer. The training manual is user-friendly and supports and guides the conversations. And the topics are very applicable to people's interests and concerns. And they said they really like that it's oriented to people's rights and responsibilities, and I do as well. Next slide. More feedback. The strengths of the cards is that it allows topics to be discussed that may not have been brought up by someone in the past, which is a really great thing about the cards. It's kind of a game piece and people feel perhaps more comfortable in talking about those types of things. Know your audience, they said. The first time we offered the cards, offered the class on relationships, we received a lot of guardian phone calls asking why we were talking about sex today. Dividing the cards and sending info home ahead of time helps smooth some ruffled feathers. So that's certainly something to keep in mind, that some people might need to be aware that you're talking about those types of things. Okay, next slide.
So the sex and relationship cards can be purchased through the link on the screen. And if you're a part of IPP, Kathy has already sent you instructions on how to get a copy of the cards.